Jasmine Taylor sat in the back row of music class, trying to make herself invisible. The wooden chair creaked as she shifted her weight. Her eyes stayed fixed on her worn notebook, filled with musical notes she had carefully copied from library books. The classroom at Lincoln High School smelled of wood polish and valve oil from the brass instruments that lined the walls. Outside, the November wind rattled the windows of the old Detroit school building. Mr. Peterson paced at the front of the room, his polished shoes clicking against the linoleum floor. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and a permanent frown that deepened whenever his gaze landed on Jasmine. Today he wore a blue sweater vest over a crisp white shirt, his usual outfit that made him look more like a banker than a music teacher. "Who can tell me the difference between a major and minor pentatonic scale?" Mr. Peterson's voice boomed through the room. His eyes scanned the faces of his students, most of whom were busy looking at their phones under their desks. The classroom was divided in ways that went beyond seating arrangements. Students from the wealthy side of town sat together near the front, many with their own instruments resting beside them. They wore brand-name clothes and talked about their private music lessons. The rest of the class, mostly kids from Jasmine's neighborhood, filled the back rows. They used the school's old instruments during class time, instruments that were often out of tune or missing parts. Jasmine knew the answer to Mr. Peterson's question. She had read about scales for hours in the public library, teaching herself music theory since her family couldn't afford lessons. But she kept quiet, as she always did. Drawing attention to herself usually led to trouble. "No one." Mr. Peterson sighed dramatically. "What about you, Lily? Your parents pay good money for those piano lessons." Lily Rogers, a girl with straight blonde hair and a pink sweater, looked up from her phone. Major sounds happy and minor sounds sad?" "That's a start," Mr. Peterson said, his voice softening the way it always did when he spoke to certain students. "Can anyone add to that?" The classroom fell silent again. Outside, a school bus honked its horn. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, reminding everyone that there were still 30 minutes of class left. Jasmine's eyes remained fixed on her notebook, but she couldn't help mouthing the words to herself. Major pentatonic has a whole step whole and a half step whole step pattern, while minor pentatonic has... "Miss Taylor," Mr. Peterson suddenly called out, "since you appear to be muttering to yourself, perhaps you'd like to share your thoughts with the class?" All eyes turned to Jasmine. She felt her cheeks grow hot. Her faded blue jeans and second-hand sweater suddenly felt like a spotlight on her family's financial struggles. Jasmine began, her voice barely audible. "Speak up, Miss Taylor," Mr. Peterson said, crossing his arms. "If you have something worth saying, make sure we can all hear it." Jasmine cleared her throat. "I was just thinking about the pattern of intervals in the scales." Mr. Peterson raised an eyebrow. "Oh? And what pattern would that be?" Jasmine opened her mouth, then closed it again. She knew the answer, but the words wouldn't come out. Not with everyone staring at her. Not with Mr. Peterson's eyes boring into her, just waiting for her to fail. "That's what I thought," Mr. Peterson said with a small smile. "Perhaps if you paid more attention in class instead of daydreaming, you might learn something." A few students snickered. Lily turned around to give Jasmine a sympathetic look, but it only made things worse. Mr. Peterson walked over to a locked cabinet at the side of the room. He pulled out a key from his pocket and opened it, revealing the school's prize possession. A professional-grade tenor saxophone that had been donated by a famous alumni last year. It gleamed under the fluorescent lights, its brass body and pearl, keys worth more than everything in Jasmine's apartment combined. "Since you seem to be so interested in music theory, Miss Taylor," Mr. Peterson said as he carefully lifted the saxophone, "perhaps a practical demonstration would help you focus better." The room went completely silent. No one was allowed to dare touch that saxophone. Even the students taking private lessons had to get special permission to use it for recitals. "Come up here and show us what you know," Mr. Peterson said, holding out the instrument. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Jasmine felt her stomach drop. She knew exactly what he was doing. He wanted to humiliate her, to put her in her place. to remind her and everyone else that some people belonged in this class and others didn't. "I don't know how to play," she said quietly. "You don't?" Mr. Peterson's voice dripped with fake surprise. "But you seem to know so much about music theory. Surely you can demonstrate a simple major scale for us." Jasmine looked around the room. Some students looked uncomfortable, others amused. No one would step in to help her. Why would they? With shaking legs, Jasmine stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor as she pushed it back. The walk to the front of the classroom felt like miles. Each step was heavy, each breath shallow. What Mr. Peterson didn't know, what no one in the school knew, was that Jasmine did know how to play. Her grandfather, Joe Taylor, had been a jazz saxophonist who played in clubs across Detroit back in the 1970s. Before he died last year, he had taught Jasmine everything he knew on his old alto saxophone. Every weekend, she would visit him in his small apartment and they would play together for hours. "Music is freedom, baby girl," he would tell her. "When you play, ain't nobody can tell you who you are or what you're worth." After he passed away, her grandmother had to sell his saxophone to pay for the funeral. Jasmine hadn't touched an instrument since then. The memory was too painful. As she reached the front of the classroom, Mr. Peterson held out the saxophone. The smirk on his face made it clear what he expected. Embarrassment, failure, confirmation of what he already believed about students like her. "Show us what you can do, Miss Taylor," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Perhaps start with a C major scale, if that's not too challenging." Jasmine took the instrument. It was heavier than her grandfather's and shinier too, but the mouthpiece felt familiar against her lips, the keys natural under her fingers. She adjusted the neck strap, took a deep breath, and closed her eyes. In that moment, she wasn't in the classroom anymore. She was in her grandfather's apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows, the smell of his coffee and cologne in the air. She could almost hear his voice. "Play from your soul, Jasmine. That's where the real music lives." She began to play. Not the C major scale Mr. Peterson had mockingly suggested, but the opening notes of John Coltrane's Naima, her grandfather's favorite song, the one he said he played for her grandmother on their first date, the one he taught Jasmine note by note, phrase by phrase, until she could play it in her sleep. The sound filled the classroom, rich and warm and full of emotion. Jasmine's fingers moved across the keys with confidence and grace, finding the notes without hesitation. Her body swayed slightly as she played, lost in the music, forgetting for a moment where she was and why she was there. When she opened her eyes, she saw Mr. Peterson's face. His smirk was gone, replaced by an expression of complete shock. His mouth hung open slightly, his arms hanging limply at his sides. The other students looked just as surprised. Lily had put her phone down and was watching with wide eyes. Even the kids who usually ignored everything in class were paying attention now. Jasmine finished the song, letting the final note hang in the air before slowly fading away. The classroom was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, from the doorway came the sound of clapping. Ms. Wilkins, the school principal, stood there with tears in her eyes. "That," she said as she walked into the room, "was the most beautiful thing I've heard in this school in 20 years. Jasmine lowered the saxophone, suddenly aware of what she had done. She had revealed her secret, the one thing that belonged only to her and her grandfather. But looking at the faces around her, the awe, the respect, the recognition, she felt something new and unfamiliar. Pride. Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. "Where did you learn to play like that?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "My grandfather taught me," Jasmine said, her voice stronger now. "He said music is freedom." As the bell rang and students began to file out, many of them stopping to speak to Jasmine for the first time ever, Mr. Peterson stood alone at his desk. He looked at the girl holding the saxophone, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time, and realized how wrong he had been. What he didn't know yet was that this moment would change not just Jasmine's life, but his own. The lesson he learned that day would reshape his entire approach to teaching, to to music, and to the students he had so easily dismissed. And it all began with a poor black student from Detroit, who played the saxophone not just with skill, but with soul. The next morning, Jasmine woke up earlier than usual. Sunlight peeked through the thin curtains of the small bedroom she shared with her younger sister Zoe. She lay still for a moment, remembering what had happened in music class yesterday. It felt like a dream, but the memory of holding that beautiful saxophone was too real to be imagination. Jasmine got out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Zoe. Their apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and a living room, with furniture that had seen better days. But it was clean and warm, and the walls were covered with family photos. Many of them showed Grandpa Joe with his saxophone, his smile wide and proud. In the kitchen, Jasmine's mother, Clara, was already dressed in her nurse's aide uniform, making coffee and packing lunches. "You're up early," Clara said, looking up with tired eyes. She worked 2 jobs, mornings at the nursing home and evenings at the grocery store. She rarely got enough sleep. "Something happened at school yesterday," Jasmine said, sitting at the small table. "In music class." Clara paused, concern crossing her face. "What kind of something?" Jasmine took a deep breath. "Mr. Peterson, he tried to embarrass me in front of everyone. He made me play the school saxophone. I think he wanted me to fail." Clara's eyes narrowed. "That man has always had a problem with kids from our neighborhood. Do I need to talk to the principal?" "No, Mom. That's not what happened. I mean, it is, but..." Jasmine smiled. "I played Grandpa's song. I played Naima just like he taught me." Clara's hand went to her mouth. "You played in front of the class, after all this time?" Jasmine nodded. "The principal heard me too. She came into the classroom." Clara sat down across from Jasmine, forgetting about the lunches for a moment. "Your grandfather would be so proud." Her eyes grew wet. "He always said you had a gift." The sound of the apartment door opening interrupted them. Jasmine's Aunt Darlene came in, returning from her night shift at the hospital. "Why are you two looking so emotional this early in the morning?" she asked, hanging up her coat. Clara quickly explained what had happened. Darlene's tired face broke into a wide smile. "That's my niece," she said, giving Jasmine a quick hug, "showing them all what you can do." As Jasmine walked to school that morning, she felt different. She held her head higher, her steps more confident. For years, she had tried to be invisible at Lincoln High. Now, for the first time, she wondered what it might be like to be seen. The school hallways were crowded and noisy as always. But today people looked at her differently. Some students who had never spoken to her before nodded or smiled. A few even stopped her to talk about her playing. "I didn't know you could play like that," said Kevin, a boy from her English class. "It was all over social media last night. Lily Rogers posted a video." Jasmine froze. "A video?" Kevin nodded, pulling out his phone to show her. Someone had recorded her playing yesterday. The video already had hundreds of comments and shares. Jasmine felt her face grow hot. She wasn't sure if she was embarrassed or proud. Maybe both. She hurried to her locker, trying to process this new development. When she got to her first class, Ms. Wilkins was waiting outside the door. "Jasmine, can I speak with you for a moment?" the principal asked. She led Jasmine to her office, where a woman Jasmine didn't recognize was waiting. She was tall, with short gray hair and elegant clothes. "This is Ms. Howard," Ms. Wilkins said. "She's the director of the City Arts Music Program." Ms. Howard stood up and extended her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Jasmine. I saw your video this morning. A colleague sent it to me saying I needed to hear this amazing young saxophonist from Lincoln High." Jasmine shook her hand, feeling nervous. "Thank you. I'll get right to the point," Ms. Howard said. "Our program offers scholarships to talented, young musicians from across the city, particularly those who might not otherwise have access to musical education. We provide lessons, instruments, performance opportunities, and eventually, help with college applications." Ms. Wilkins smiled encouragingly at Jasmine. "Ms. Howard would like to offer you a scholarship." Jasmine couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Me?" but I haven't had real lessons. I only know what my grandfather taught me. That makes what you did even more impressive, Ms. Howard said. Raw talent like yours is rare. With proper training, there's no limit to what you could achieve. Jasmine thought about what this would mean. Lessons, her own saxophone, a chance to play music regularly again. It seemed too good to be true. Could I talk to my mom about this? She asked. Of course, Ms. Howard said, handing Jasmine a folder. All the information is in here. We'd need to meet with your parents to discuss the details, but the scholarship would cover everything. Lessons, instrument use, transportation to our center downtown, everything. As Jasmine left the office, her mind was spinning. The scholarship could change everything. But one thought kept coming back. What would Mr. Peterson say? Would he be angry that his attempt to humiliate her had led to this opportunity? She got her answer that afternoon. When she walked into music class, the room fell silent. Everyone was watching her, including Mr. Peterson, who stood at his desk looking uncomfortable. Miss Taylor, he said, his voice different from yesterday. Could I speak with you in the hallway, please? Nervously, Jasmine followed him out. In the empty hallway, Mr. Peterson cleared his throat several times before speaking. I owe you an apology, he finally said, not quite meeting her eyes. My behavior yesterday was unprofessional and unkind. I made assumptions about you that were unfair and, as you proved quite clearly, incorrect. Jasmine didn't know what to say. She had never heard a teacher apologize to a student before, especially not Mr. Peterson. I've been teaching for 20 years, he continued, and I've developed habits of thinking that I need to examine. When I heard you play yesterday, it wasn't just your talent that shocked me. It was realizing how completely I had misjudged you. He finally looked directly at her. Ms. Wilkins told me about the City Arts Scholarship. It's an excellent program. I've had several students participate over the years. I haven't decided yet, Jasmine said. I need to talk to my mom. Mr. Peterson nodded. Of course, but if you do accept and if you're willing, I'd like to help you prepare. The school can arrange for you to use the saxophone for practice. I could work with you before or after school. Jasmine was confused. You want to help me? Yes, he said simply. If you'll let me. It would be my way of making amends. Back in class, Mr. Peterson was different. He called on students from all parts of the room. He explained concepts more clearly, and when he played examples on the piano, he chose pieces from different musical traditions, not just classical. After school, Jasmine went to the public library to use the computer. She needed to research the City Arts music program before talking to her mom. As she searched, she found articles about past scholarship recipients. Many had gone on to music schools like Juilliard and Berkeley. Some were now professional musicians. One article caught her eye. It was about a saxophonist named Marcus Green who had grown up in Jasmine's neighborhood. He had received the City Arts Scholarship 15 years ago and now played with a famous jazz ensemble. The article mentioned that he had started playing when his grandfather taught him on an old alto saxophone. Jasmine felt tears come to her eyes. It was like a sign from her own grandfather, telling her this was her path too. That evening, Jasmine, her mother, and her aunt sat at their kitchen table reviewing the scholarship information. This is a real opportunity, Clara said, reading through the papers. But the center is downtown. You'd need to go there 3 times a week for lessons. I can take the bus, Jasmine said, or maybe carpool with other students. Darlene pointed to a section of the paperwork. It says here they help with transportation. And look, they provide the instrument during the first year. After that, they help students purchase their own. Clara looked at her daughter. Is this what you want? Really want? It would mean a lot of hard work. Jasmine thought about how it felt to play yesterday, how the music had flowed through her, how right the saxophone had felt in her hands. She thought about her grandfather, and how his face would light up when they played together. And she thought about Mr. Peterson, and how quickly one moment had changed his perception of her. Yes, she said firmly. This is what I want. Clara nodded, her eyes shining with pride and unshed tears. Then we'll make it work. We always do. As Clara signed the forms, Jasmine felt something settle inside her. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges and hard work. But for the first time, she could see a future where music was at the center of her life, just as her grandfather had always believed it should be. And it had all started because a teacher had tried to humiliate her, never expecting that his cruelty would open a door to her greatest dream. The City Arts Music Center stood tall in downtown Detroit, its red brick walls and large windows making it look important and a little scary. Jasmine stood on the sidewalk, looking up at the building. She held the school saxophone case tightly in her hand. Mr. Peterson had arranged for her to borrow it until she received her own instrument through the scholarship program. "You ready?" Clara asked, standing beside her daughter. She had switched shifts at the nursing home to be here for Jasmine's first day. Jasmine nodded, though her stomach felt full of butterflies. They walked through the glass doors into a bright lobby filled with music. A violin played somewhere down a hallway. A piano melody drifted from behind a closed door. The walls were covered with photos of musicians, many of them young people about Jasmine's age. At the front desk, a friendly woman with colorful glasses checked Jasmine's name on a list. "You must be our new saxophonist," she said with a warm smile. "Ms. Howard is waiting for you in Studio C. Down the hall, third door on the right." Jasmine and Clara walked slowly, taking in everything. Other students passed by, carrying instrument cases and sheet music. Some nodded hello. Others were too focused on their conversations about music theory and upcoming performances to notice them. Studio C had a large window in the door. Through it, Jasmine could see Ms. Howard talking with a man who held a saxophone similar to the one Jasmine carried. Ms. Howard waved them in. "Jasmine, Mrs. Taylor, welcome to City Arts. This is Mr. Reeves, one of our saxophone instructors." Mr. Reeves was tall with kind eyes and gray at his temples. He shook Jasmine's hand firmly. "I saw your video," he said. "You have a natural feel for the instrument. Who was your teacher?" "My grandfather," Jasmine said. "But he passed away last year." Mr. Reeves nodded thoughtfully. "He taught you well. I'd like to hear you play something, if that's okay, just to get a sense of your style and technique." Jasmine glanced at her mother, who gave her an encouraging nod. She took out the saxophone, assembled it quickly, and played a simple blues scale, followed by the first minute of Naima. When she finished, Mr. Reeves was smiling broadly. "You have a gift," he said. "There are technical elements we'll need to work on, but you understand the soul of jazz, and that can't be taught." Ms. Howard explained the program schedule. Jasmine would have lessons twice a week and join a student ensemble on Saturdays. There would be theory classes, history of music workshops, and performance opportunities throughout the year. "The scholarship covers everything," Ms. Howard assured Clara, "including the instrument. In fact, we have something for Jasmine today." She brought out a beautiful case, newer and shinier than the school's old one. Inside was an alto saxophone that gleamed under the studio lights. "This is yours to use as long as you're in the program," Ms. Howard said. "Take good care of it, practice regularly, and it will take you far." Jasmine couldn't believe it. She carefully touched the keys, feeling their smooth coolness under her fingers. It reminded her of her grandfather's saxophone, but this one was in perfect condition. "Thank you," she whispered, not trusting her voice to say more. As weeks passed, Jasmine settled into a new routine. School during the day, saxophone practice in the evening, and lessons at City Arts. Mr. Peterson kept his word, working with her before school twice a week. He was different now, more patient, more encouraging, not just with Jasmine, but with all his students. One morning in late January, Mr. Peterson suggested something unexpected. "The school talent show is coming up in March," he said as Jasmine packed up her saxophone after their practice session. "I think you should enter." Jasmine hesitated. Playing in class or at City Arts was one thing. Performing in front of the whole school was another. "I don't know," she said. "I'm still learning." "We're all still learning," Mr. Peterson said. "Even professional musicians. But what you can do already is special. People should hear it." Jasmine thought about it all day. When she mentioned the talent show to Mr. Reeves during her lesson that afternoon. He immediately agreed with Mr. Peterson. Performance is part of being a musician, Mr. Reeves said. It's scary at first, but it gets easier with practice. That Saturday, during ensemble rehearsal, Jasmine met a piano student named Derek. He was a year older than her and had been in the program for 2 years. "You should definitely do the talent show," he said when she mentioned it. "I did it at my school last year. It was terrifying and awesome at the same time. Would you consider performing together?" Jasmine asked impulsively. A duet might be less scary than going solo. Derek thought about it for a moment, then grinned. "That could be cool. What if we did a jazz arrangement of something unexpected, like a pop song everyone knows but in a completely different style?" The idea excited Jasmine. They spent their lunch break brainstorming songs and ideas, finally settling on a current hit that everyone at school liked, but reimagined as a jazz piece. With Ms. Howard's permission, they began practicing together once a week. Mr. Reeves helped them arrange the music, showing them how to maintain the recognizable melody while transforming the style. As the talent show approached, word spread about their performance. Students who had never spoken to Jasmine before stopped her in the hallways to ask about it. Teachers mentioned how excited they were to hear her play again. At home, things were changing too. Clara had cut back her hours at the grocery store to be home more in the evenings. Jasmine often found her mother sitting quietly in the living room, eyes closed, listening to her practice. One evening, Jasmine took a break and sat beside her mother on the couch. "Do you think Grandpa would be proud?" she asked. Clara put her arm around Jasmine's shoulders. "He was already proud of you, baby. But yes, seeing you now would have made him the happiest man in Detroit." The night before the talent show, Jasmine couldn't sleep. She went to the kitchen for a glass of water and found her Aunt Darlene sitting at the table, still in her nurses, scrubs from her shift. "Big day tomorrow," Darlene said. Nervous, Jasmine nodded, sitting across from her aunt. "What if I mess up? Everyone's expecting so much." Darlene reached across the table and took Jasmine's hand. "You remember what your grandpa used to say about mistakes?" Jasmine smiled slightly. "He said there are no wrong notes in jazz, just unexpected ones." "That's right. And he also said that it's not about being perfect. It's about saying something true." Darlene squeezed her hand. "You have something to say, Jasmine, and people need to hear it." The next morning, Lincoln High's auditorium was packed. The talent show was a big event, drawing students, teachers, and families. Backstage, Jasmine peeked through the curtains, seeing rows and rows of faces. Derek joined her, looking just as nervous in his dress shirt and tie. "I think I'm going to be sick," he whispered. Jasmine felt the same way, but somehow hearing his fear made her feel stronger. "We've practiced this 100 times, she said. "We know every note. We've got this." Mr. Peterson found them as they waited for their turn. "No matter what happens out there," he said, "remember that music is about connection. Connect with the audience. Connect with each other, and the rest will follow." When the MC called their names, Jasmine and Derek walked onto the stage. The bright lights made it hard to see the audience, which was somehow both terrifying and comforting. Jasmine could make out her mother and aunt in the third row, and Ms. Howard sitting beside them. Derek sat at the piano. Jasmine stood beside it, her saxophone ready. They had decided not to introduce their piece, to let the music speak for itself. Derek began with a gentle introduction, his fingers dancing over the keys. Jasmine closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and joined in, her saxophone weaving a familiar melody in an unfamiliar style. For the first few measures, the audience was silent, perhaps trying to place the tune. Then a murmur of recognition spread through the room as people realized what they were hearing, a chart-topping pop song transformed into a soulful jazz piece. As they played, something magical happened. The nervousness disappeared. The audience faded away. It was just Jasmine, Derek, and the music flowing between them, around them, through them. When they finished, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the auditorium erupted in applause and cheers. People stood up, clapping and whistling. Jasmine saw her mother wiping tears from her eyes. Ms. Howard was beaming, and Mr. Peterson, standing at the side of the stage, was applauding louder than anyone. As Jasmine and Derek took their bow, she realized that something fundamental had changed. Music was no longer just a private joy or a family tradition. It had become her voice in the world, and people were listening. Spring came to Detroit, bringing warm breezes and new opportunities for Jasmine. After the talent show, things changed quickly. The video of her performance with Derek went viral online, gathering thousands of views. Local music blogs wrote about the jazz prodigies from Detroit. A reporter from the city newspaper even came to interview them at City Arts. "How does it feel to become an overnight sensation?" the reporter asked. Jasmine looked at Derek and they both laughed. "It wasn't overnight," Jasmine said. "I've been playing since I was 9. And I've been taking piano lessons for 7 years," Derek added. The reporter seemed surprised. "So this talent isn't just natural ability?" Mr. Reeves, who was sitting in on the interview, shook his head firmly. "There's no such thing as overnight success in music. What you're seeing is the result of years of practice, dedication, and love for the craft." The article, when it appeared in the Sunday paper, was thoughtful and respectful. It told the story of 2 young musicians from different parts of the city who found common ground in jazz. It mentioned Jasmine's grandfather and his influence on her playing. It also highlighted the City Arts program and its mission to make music education accessible to all students. At school, Jasmine was no longer invisible. Students greeted her in the hallways. Teachers asked about her music. Even the principal stopped her one morning to say she'd seen the newspaper article and was proud to have Jasmine representing Lincoln High. Mr. Peterson was different too. The man who had once tried to humiliate her was now one of her biggest supporters. He had changed his teaching style completely, making a point to recognize talent in unexpected places. He started a jazz ensemble at the school, inviting Jasmine to be the lead saxophonist. "I've been thinking about what happened at the beginning of the year," he said one day after practice. "About how wrong I was." Jasmine felt uncomfortable. She didn't like to think about that day anymore. "I've been teaching for 20 years, Mr. Peterson continued, and I realized I've probably overlooked dozens of students like you, talented kids who didn't fit my idea of what a musician looks like or where they come from." "It's okay," Jasmine said, not sure what else to say. "No, it's not," Mr. Peterson said firmly, "but I'm trying to be better, and I want to thank you for showing me my own prejudice." It was an important lesson. One warm evening in late April, Mr. Reeves kept Jasmine after her lesson. "There's an opportunity I want to discuss with you," he said. "The Blue Note Jazz Club has a program called Young Lions. They feature talented students on Sunday afternoons." Jasmine's eyes widened. The Blue Note was one of the most famous jazz clubs in the city. Her grandfather had played there in his younger days. "They've asked if you would be interested in performing," Mr. Reeves continued. "It pays a small fee, and it's excellent exposure. Many music school scouts attend these sessions." "Me? At the Blue Note?" Jasmine could hardly believe it. "Do you think I'm ready?" "I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't," Mr. Reeves said. "You'd need to prepare a 30-minute set. You could include Derek for a few numbers if you want, but they're specifically interested in you as a saxophonist." That night, Jasmine told her family about the opportunity over dinner. Clara and Darlene exchanged looks. "The Blue Note," Clara said softly. "Your grandfather would be so proud." "They pay performers," Jasmine added. "Not much, but something." Clara shook her head. "This isn't about money, baby. This is about your future." But later, as Jasmine practiced in her room, she heard her mother and aunt talking in the kitchen. "College applications are next year," Clara was saying. "Even with scholarships, we'll need money for expenses." "We'll figure it out," Darlene replied. "We always do." "She's got a real shot," Clara said. "A real shot at a different life." Jasmine played louder, not wanting to hear more. She knew her family struggled financially. Her mother worked too hard, too many hours. If Jasmine could contribute even a little through her music, she wanted to. The next day, she asked Mr. Reeves about other performance opportunities. Besides the Blue Note, she explained, places where student musicians can play and maybe earn a little money. Mr. Reeves thought for a moment. There are some restaurants that have jazz nights, coffee shops too. The pay isn't great, but it's experience. Why do you ask? Jasmine explained about overhearing her mother's concerns about college costs. Mr. Reeves nodded, understanding. Let me make some calls, he said. But remember, your main job right now is to develop as a musician. That means practice, study, and staying focused on your education. 2 weeks later, Jasmine had her first gig at a small Italian restaurant called Marco's. They had live jazz on Friday nights, and the regular saxophonist was taking a month off to tour with a band. Mr. Reeves had recommended Jasmine as a temporary replacement. The restaurant owner, a jovial man named Tony, welcomed her warmly. The gig pays $100 for the night, he explained. 4 hours with breaks. You'll play with our house trio, piano, bass, and drums. They're good guys. Been with me for years. Jasmine met the trio, all men in their 50s and 60s who had been playing together since before she was born. They were kind but professional, running through the set list with her and showing her how to follow their cues. You got good tone, kid, the pianist said after their rehearsal. Reminds me of Cannonball Adderley, smooth but with feeling. That first night at Marco's was nerve-wracking. Playing for diners was different from performing on stage. People talked, ate, and sometimes didn't seem to be listening at all. But the trio was supportive, guiding her through each song, giving her space for solos when she was confident and backing her up when she wasn't. By the end of the night, Jasmine felt like she'd learned more about real-world jazz performance than in months of lessons. And when Tony handed her 5 $20 bills, she felt a surge of pride unlike anything she'd experienced before. You earned that, Tony said with a smile. And the customers loved you. The Friday slot is yours for as long as you want it, at least until Sal comes back from tour. Jasmine took the bus home, holding the money tightly in her pocket. It wasn't a fortune, but it was something. And it was hers, earned through her music. When she got home, her mother was still awake, waiting, up despite the late hour. How was it? Clara asked. Jasmine held out the money. I got paid to play jazz, Mom, just like Grandpa used to. Clara's eyes filled with tears as she hugged her daughter. He's watching over you, baby. I know he is. Over the next few months, Jasmine developed a regular schedule. School during the day, practice after school, lessons at City Arts, and gigs on weekends. Besides the Friday night spot at Marco's, she picked up occasional performances at a coffee shop near the university and at community events through City Arts. The money wasn't much, but she saved every dollar in a special account Clara had helped her open. College fund, the envelope read. Each deposit made Jasmine feel like she was building her future note by note. As her junior year of high school neared its end, Ms. Howard called Jasmine into her office at City Arts. I've been watching your progress, she said. Not just as a musician, but as a young professional. The way you balance school, practice, lessons, and gigs is impressive. Thank you, Jasmine said, wondering where this was going. The Blue Note performance is in 2 weeks, Ms. Howard continued. After that, I think we should discuss summer programs. Berklee College of Music has a 5-week summer performance program. It's highly competitive, but it would be perfect for you, and it often leads to college scholarships. Berklee? Jasmine whispered. It was one of the top music schools in the country. In Boston? Ms. Howard nodded. The program is expensive, but there are scholarships. And with your talent and work ethic, I think you'd have a good chance at a full ride. That evening, as Jasmine practiced for her Blue Note debut, she thought about how much had changed in less than a year. Last fall, she had been the quiet girl in the back of music class, the one Mr. Peterson had tried to humiliate. Now she was preparing to play at the Blue Note, with a potential path to one of the best music schools in the country. All because she had found the courage to play her grandfather's song that day, to show what she could do instead of shrinking away. All because music had given her a voice when she needed it most. The Blue Note Jazz Club glowed with soft blue lights as Jasmine peeked through the curtain at the crowd. The Sunday afternoon Young Lions show had drawn a full house, Music students, teachers, professional musicians, and jazz lovers filled every table. Nervous? Mr. Reeves asked, standing beside her backstage. Terrified, Jasmine admitted. Good, he said with a smile. The day you stop feeling nervous before a performance is the day you stop caring about the music. Jasmine spotted her family sitting at a front table. Her mother, Aunt Darlene, Sister Zoe, and 2 cousins. Mr. Peterson was there too, sitting with Ms. Howard and some other teachers from City Arts. Even Tony from Marco's restaurant had come to support her. The club manager, a stern-looking woman named Valerie, gave Jasmine a 5-minute warning. You've got 30 minutes on stage, she reminded her. Make them count. Jasmine nodded, checking her saxophone one last time. She had polished it that morning until it gleamed under the lights. The house band, professional musicians who had played with some of the greats, had rehearsed with her yesterday. They were kind but demanding, pushing her to dig deeper into each song. And now, the announcer's voice boomed through the club. The Blue Note is proud to present a rising star in the Detroit jazz scene, just 17 years old but with the soul of a veteran player. Please welcome Jasmine Taylor. The crowd applauded as Jasmine walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, making it hard to see faces, but she could feel the energy of the audience. She nodded to the band, took a deep breath, and began to play. Her first song was a classic jazz standard that her grandfather had taught her years ago. The familiar melody calmed her nerves as her fingers found the notes without hesitation. By the second song, an original piece she had composed with help from Mr. Reeves, Jasmine began to relax and enjoy herself. Halfway through her set, she paused to speak to the audience. This next song is special to me, she said, her voice stronger than she expected. It's called Naima by John Coltrane. It was my grandfather's favorite, and it was the first real jazz piece I ever learned. A year ago, I played it in my school music class, and it changed my life. As she played the familiar melody, Jasmine closed her eyes and thought of her grandfather. She could almost feel him there with her, nodding along to the music, smiling with pride. When she finished the song, the applause was thunderous. For her final number, Jasmine invited Derek to join her on stage. Together, they played the same jazz arrangement of the pop song they had performed at the talent show. The audience loved it, some people even singing along to the familiar melody reimagined in jazz style. When the set ended, Jasmine took a bow as the crowd gave her a standing ovation. Her mother was crying, Aunt Darlene was cheering loudly, and Mr. Peterson was applauding with tears in his eyes. Backstage, Valerie, the manager, handed Jasmine an envelope. Your payment, she said. Plus, we'd like to invite you back next month. Our Sunday crowd loved you. As Jasmine rejoined her family, several people stopped to congratulate her. A few asked if she had CDs for sale or if she played private events. You should have business cards, Mr. Peterson suggested. And maybe think about recording some of your music. The most surprising conversation came when a well-dressed woman approached Jasmine as the club began to empty. Ms. Taylor, I'm Patricia Daniels from Berklee College of Music, she said, handing Jasmine a business card. I'm here scouting talent for our summer program and fall admissions. Your performance was impressive. Jasmine's eyes widened. Thank you, she managed to say. Ms. Howard has spoken highly of you, Ms. Daniels continued. I'd like to discuss scholarship opportunities for both our summer program and potentially for undergraduate study next year. That night, as the Taylor family celebrated at a small restaurant near their home, Jasmine felt overwhelmed by how quickly her life was changing. A scholarship to Berklee, Clara said, still amazed. Your grandfather always said you were meant for big things. Nothing's certain yet, Jasmine reminded her. I still need to apply and audition. After today's performance, that audition is just a formality, Mr. Peterson said. He had joined them for dinner at Clara's invitation, something that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Summer arrived, bringing with it a letter from Berklee College of Music. Jasmine had been accepted to the 5-week summer performance program with a full scholarship. The letter mentioned that strong performance in the summer program could lead to scholarship opportunities for undergraduate study. Boston, Clara said, as they packed Jasmine's suitcase. I never thought my girl would be going all the way to Boston. It's just for 5 weeks, Jasmine reminded her. Then I'll be back home for senior year. But they both knew this was just the beginning of bigger changes. If all went well, Jasmine might be moving to Boston permanently the following year for college. The 5 weeks at Berklee were the most challenging and exciting of Jasmine's life. She was surrounded by talented young musicians from around the world, all sharing her passion for music. The instructors were demanding, pushing her to expand her technical skills and musical knowledge. She practiced harder than ever before, often staying in the practice rooms until midnight. "You have a unique voice," her saxophone instructor told her during her final evaluation. "That's something that can't be taught. The technical elements we can work on, but that emotional connection to the music, that's special." When Jasmine returned to Detroit in August, she brought with her a letter of pre-acceptance to Berklee's undergraduate program, with a substantial scholarship offer contingent on her final audition in the spring. Senior year began with new energy. Jasmine was now one of the student leaders in the school jazz ensemble. Mr. Peterson had even asked her to help mentor younger students who were interested in jazz. "Remember last year?" he said one day after practice. "When I tried to embarrass you by making you play?" Jasmine nodded. "That day felt like a lifetime ago. I think about that moment often," Mr. Peterson continued. "About how close I came to crushing something beautiful before it had a chance to grow. It's made me rethink everything about how I teach." Together, they developed a new music program at Lincoln High focused on jazz education and performance opportunities for students from all backgrounds. They worked with City Arts to secure donated instruments for students who couldn't afford their own. The Taylor Music Initiative, Mr. Peterson called it. "With your permission, of course." Jasmine was touched. "I think Grandpa would like that," she said. By spring, Jasmine had been accepted to several music schools, including Berklee, with a full scholarship. She continued playing gigs around Detroit, saving money for college expenses and helping her family when she could. For her final high school concert, Jasmine composed an original piece titled "Full Circle." She dedicated it to her grandfather, her family, and to Mr. Peterson. "Sometimes the people who challenge us the most end up being the ones who help us find our way," she said before playing. "And sometimes the moments that seem like they might break us turn out to be the ones that make us stronger." As she played her composition, Jasmine thought about the journey of the past 2 years. From the back row of music class to the stage of the Blue Note, from a teacher's attempt to humiliate her to a future at one of the best music schools in the country. After graduation, on a warm June evening, Jasmine visited her grandfather's grave. She brought her saxophone and played Naima one more time before leaving for college. "I kept our music alive, Grandpa," she said quietly, "just like you asked me to." 5 years later, when Jasmine returned to Lincoln High as a guest artist, now a graduate of Berklee and a rising star in the jazz world, she found the music program thriving. The Taylor Music Initiative had expanded to 3 other schools in the district. Mr. Peterson, older but still passionate about teaching, greeted her with a warm hug. "You changed this place," he told her. "You changed me." "We changed each other," Jasmine replied. As she took the stage in the school auditorium, looking out at a new generation of students, Jasmine thought about that day in music class when a teacher had tried to humiliate a poor black student by making her play the saxophone. He didn't know she was a genius then, but now the whole world did.